Welcome to Wide Receiver 1, a Blue Wire podcast presented by WinBet. I'm your host, Cris Carter, Pro Football Hall of Fame wide receiver. And today I'm very excited to talk to reigning Super Bowl champ, Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver Mike Evans. The Texas native was the 7th overall pick in the 2014 NFL Draft out of Texas A&M. And man, what a stellar rookie year he had. 68 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and 12 touchdowns, setting franchise records with the Buccaneers. The three-time Pro Bowler and newly minted Super Bowl champion is ready for the new season, feeling like this year's team is better than last year. Could there be a repeat in this year's Super Bowl? Mike Evans thinks so. We're also going to get into who the man is under the helmet, from his humble beginnings to his charity work off the field. Stay tuned for my interview with wide receiver Mike Evans. Today, I'm very, very excited because we have one of the Super Bowl reigning champions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver Mike Evans. Now, Mike, there is so much to your story. I don't think people really know who you are. So even in me getting on the podcast today, I was telling you that, and you was like, no, man, don't tell people. I don't want people to know. That trait of laying low is not the typical wide receiver trait. So who is Mike Evans, and why do you have that internally that I want to be behind the scenes?
I don't know, man. That's just how I've always been. You know, I'm from Galveston, Texas. I just worked hard all my life to try to get to reach my goals. And, I've been blessed and put in this position to, not only just do, what I love is play football and, provide for my family, but also provide for others that are in need. And, I love doing that, and I take joy in that.
You seem to be a player that's got a great deal of balance in your life. I know you've been surrounded by a lot of women in your life. You got 3 daughters.
Yeah. Two daughters.
You got 2 daughters.
A son.
And you have your significant partner there in your life. But it all started with your mom. And to me, that was kind of one of the stories that not only your size and your ability that attracts me to you, it's your story about your mom. My mom had 7 kids before the age of 25. Got kicked out of high school. Everyone told her she was going to be a failure in life. But she went on to make something of her life and made her kids make something of their life. Can you kind of give me the Mike Evans story, your mom, and some of the hardships that you experienced in those early days that made you into the person who you are today?
Well, my mother showed me, how it's done. And to no matter what hand you're dealt, you can always find a way to become successful and accomplish what you want to accomplish. And looking back on it, we were a poor family, but she never made it seem like that because she worked so hard. She made sure we had everything we needed, the new toys, the new shoes that came out. She always made sure we had the best, even though she didn't have much. So she just taught me that, that work ethic, early on, and, that you can just achieve, what you want to achieve.
My mother was the same way. She was the driving force in us setting our goals when we were younger. But it's just amazing when you grow up in those situations that, to me, I didn't have a father. Your father was taken from you at an early age. Yep. Can you kind of explain that story with you losing your father and how that has also helped develop some other things that you do off the field, as far as a Walter Payton nominee there for the Tampa Bay, and you're doing some great things off the field?
Yeah. I lost my dad when I was 9 years old. I guess a domestic violence issue. My story is on E60. If anybody wants to see it, most of it's pretty accurate. My uncle murdered my father. He's in prison now, life in prison. But that was a tough situation, growing up, and it definitely angered me a lot. And not having my father around, but I was blessed with a lot of mentors and a lot of, great people in my life to help me get through that time. And, my mom, obviously, she was the rock, but we definitely had, other people to help out. I had a great group of friends, growing up. And in the city I grew up in, Galveston, Texas, it was such a tough city, but the people cared about each other, truly. So
a lot of good athletes in Galveston.
You are, yes, sir. You know it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. A lot of great ones. But everything, in life happens for a reason. And I definitely just, had a lot of help, along the way.
When you're in a town like that, it seems like people do rally around each other, and especially the youth coaches. Now, I don't know what they saw in you. I know you had a basketball background, didn't play high school football until your senior year. And at that time, you had far more offers to play college basketball. Talk to me about one of your youth coaches that really helped steer your life in the right direction when you were younger.
Well, the people that do know my story and they do know me, that they know Coach Terry Pettaway is a legend in Galveston, Texas. I look at him like a father figure. He's my mentor. That's what I tell most people. But definitely, he was there for me in a time of need. And he's there for so many other kids, and he brought up so many other kids the same way. But I initially started playing football for him, and my dad died. And then luckily, I was playing on his little league football team, and he showed me how to be a man. And just watching him, he was a great role model for me. But yeah, if anybody knows me and my story, they know that he's very near and dear to my heart. And, I played AAU basketball for him all the way up until I was, 17. So, from 8 to 17. So I've been around him a long, long time.
I have a little basketball in my background. My brother played in the NBA. I thought I was going to be playing in the NBA, but
basketball is a fun sport.
It really is. And it's far more difficult to be good at or great at than football is. So tell me, even as a big receiver, because this is one thing that's intriguing to me, because you do realize that height and being a wide receiver is a disadvantage as far as running routes and breaking and getting down. Because
people don't understand that, though.
Because the higher your hip joint is off the ground, the harder it is to break down. So you're one of the great route runners that we have. How did you get out of being a basketball player and just posting people up, trying to moss people, compared to, I've seen you transition that you've been more of a technician the last 3 or 4 years than your first 3 or 4 years of your NFL career?
Man, I love having this wide receiver talk because you know what you're talking about. You hit that right on the head, man. I was very unpolished when I came into the league. Obviously, I had ability in my size and can catch the ball, but I just started to watch everybody's film, and I just learned from everybody else, just watching their film. And each year, I just always wanted to get better at route running because I'm 6'5", I can run, jump, and do all those things. But if that's all you can do, then you're limited. So I just don't want to be a limited player. And each year I focus on route running. And I just watch the guys around me, watch guys around the league, watch the legends, yourself included, Randy, watch a lot of Calvin Johnson, and to watch how those guys bend and just be creative in their routes. It's really an art form. And I just love, just taking bits and pieces of other great wide receivers games.
And since you've been in the league, you've been a dominant player. 7 seasons, 7,000-yard seasons, numerous NFL records, a bunch of Tampa Bay records. Like even right now, because I'm always taking an interest in the wide receiver in the landscape. If I had 3 votes to the players that are currently playing, they're going to get a gold jacket one day. One of those votes I got to give to you. And people might be surprised. They'd be like, wow, Mike Evans would get one of those votes. Yes, Devontae Adams would get one of those votes. And DeAndre Hopkins would get one of those votes. And there's probably 1 or 2 I might be able, but right now, as far as what you've done, and people would be surprised, you broke Randy Moss's 6 straight 1,000-yard seasons. And I was there for the first 4 of those. So I knew exactly what he did. And I just think, even with playing in Tampa Bay, getting into the playoffs for the first time, that you're still one of the most underrated players that we have playing the game.
I appreciate you, man. That means a lot coming from you. I mean, I'll take your opinion over, just a guy that hasn't played before for sure. So I appreciate that.
The numbers don't lie. You have, I'm not going to call them out because they'll be upset, but you have numbers already as far as catches and touchdown. The guys that got gold jackets have already.
Yeah, different times, it's evolution as well, of the game and, how it goes from a lot of passing now and things like that.
But one of the things, and I'll move on, one of the things in getting a gold jacket is consistency. And that's what you've been able to do. You've been very, very productive. throughout your career. I want to go a little bit off the field because we talked about growing up with a single mom. We talked about domestic violence issue as far as losing your father at a very, very young age. You have decided that I'm going to be different as an athlete. I'm going to do a lot of things off the field. I'm going to support people in Texas. I'm going to support people there in the Tampa Bay area. Give me some of the things that you have brewing with your charities over the next year that we can say, wow, look what Michael Evans is doing. Because I know what you're doing. I know you've been nominated,
yes,
but I want you to share it with the audience, some of the things that you're involved in, and you're not just about talking about it, but you put your resources and your foundation, which you've established, which make a lot of these things happen.
Well, the Mike Evans Family Foundation, each year we give out scholarships to, underserved kids and kids that are making good grades. We do that in the Galveston community. We do that in College Station community, where Texas A&M is at, and we do that in Florida, the Tampa area. So, this year was our first year of giving out the 13 scholarships. For my number, we gave out 13 scholarships to kids in those areas. We also do an endowment fund at Texas A&M and University of South Florida. Each year, we've been doing that for the past 4 years. And we just give out, scholarships to kids that deserve it. And we also work with, shelters, families that suffer from domestic violence. We donate there all the time. And a lot of other things that, I just can't think of on the top of my head.
I mean, a lot of players around the league, I think it's one of the hidden gems being in the NFL locker room, is we don't get the notoriety for the good things that players are doing. Of course, if you do something, it's going to be blown from a negative standpoint, but we don't even have the same intensity on the great things that our players are doing. I want you to take me on a journey. All right? I played 16 years in the NFL. 2 times I got to the NFC Championship game. Never made it to the Super Bowl. And I wasn't one of those kind of people that say, hey, man, you play long enough, you deserve it. No, whoever gets there deserves it. I don't believe in charity. Take me on a journey. And I wanted to go from the first day that you heard Tom Brady might be coming to Tampa because I was there in Tampa, to the confetti dropping on you and ending with the parade the next day with Tom being a little intoxicated. Take us on a journey, man, because I've been in the NFL since 1987, man. I played in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, been covering the league the last 20 years. But I've never won what you have already. So I need this, man, okay? So take me on a journey, give me some of the details, maybe from the first time you heard that Tom Brady was coming to Tampa.
All right. So when I first heard he was coming, it was like chatter that he was coming, right? So me and Chris Godwin are talking, and Chris Godwin was number 12. So I'm like, Chris Godwin. I was like, what if Tom comes? What you doing? And he was like, off rip, I got to give up number 12 easy. No problem if we get Tom Brady. And I was like, all right, smart man. And then, a day later, we end up signing him, and he hits me on Instagram. And I just seen Tom Brady's name in my mention. I'm like, what the heck? And then he said, excited to get to work with me. And then we worked out like 2 weeks after that. And the rest was history. He's the most detailed player I've ever played with, the smartest football player I've ever been around. And it's a reason why, he's so accomplished. I mean, he loves the game of football. He loves his teammates, and he's going to get the best out of everybody around him.
What type of ball does Tom Brady throw? Because you had your boy. He was one of your groomsmen, Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel can fire that thing. In college, y'all did a big thing.
Yeah, Johnny was an accurate quarterback, and he threw it.
And Jameis can throw it. Now, he will throw it to the opposition too, but Jameis can flat throw that football.
All quarterbacks throw interceptions, though.
But what kind of ball does Tom throw?
I'm happy for Jameis, though. I'm happy for Jameis. He got the starting job in New Orleans. But, man, Tom can really zip it. They were talking about he was losing his arm talent and things like that, but I don't see nothing. He's 44 years old, and, it's probably even better than last year, how he's spending it right now, making a lot of great throws in practice and preseason.
Has practice become more important to you as a player now that you've partnered with Tom Brady?
I've always taken practice very seriously. To work the crafts, get the looks that we need before we go out into the game. But we definitely, the reps me and Tom get, and he gets with the offense, we need them because we're behind a lot of teams that's been together for a long time, and we're trying to do something very special, and we need those practice reps, and Tom understands that, and we all make sure that we're out there working.
You got to be careful there. I like Chris Godwin. I believe he's one of the most underrated receivers that we have, even before Tom got there. But now you guys got Fournette. You guys got Gronk, dominant player throughout his career, gold jacket. Antonio Brown has the numbers, another gold jacket. Practice must be hell of a competitive with all those great athletes in one huddle.
Our defense is fantastic. They give us a run for our money all the time. This camp, I feel like we gave it to them, but let them tell it. They'll probably take something different. But it's great work. It's great work, to have that level of competition and that much fun at practice. We definitely get each other better, and iron sharpens iron.
Give me one little tidbit that you've learned from AB, because he's a technician. His releases and everything are second to none, and he studies the game of football.
Yes, he does, and he practices so hard. And how old is he? 33, and he looks fresh. He has a lot of juice. He always wants to go more. Like, he never gets tired. That's one thing that I wish I could have, or all receivers wish they could have, because he's a guy that I've seen never gets tired. And the way he sticks on his routes is what I'm looking at. He just sticks so hard in the ground and doesn't lose his leverage at all. Not many guys can do that, but I'm trying to do that.
Now, give me something from Gronk, something you've picked up from him, because there's no tight end that's been as dominant, and there's been no player that's had more fun playing the game than Gronk.
Man, I've learned to be more positive because of Gronk. Honestly, he's like you say, he's a Hall of Fame caliber tight end. Well, he is going to be first ballot Hall of Famer when this comes. But I've learned in practice, if he drops a pass, misses a block, he's like, all right, I'll get the next one. And he just keeps smiling and just goes out there and just tries to make the next play. And he doesn't care. He doesn't beat himself up on the negatives he has. Like a lot of other guys, we get frustrated and things like that, but he just moves on to the next play. And in the game as well, he's just always positive no matter what.
I've been knowing Bruce Arians for a long time. He's got a lot of friends in the business. What did it feel like for you guys as a squad, getting him that championship, given what he's been through, not only as a coach, but what he went through health-wise, retiring, coming back into the game and taking that Tampa job, believing that he had a Super Bowl champion there in Tampa?
We were all so happy for BA, and we're going to try to get him another one because he's a very hardworking coach. He's been through a lot. And, I always liked Bruce Arians, even before I met him. I liked the way that they game planned against me when he was in Arizona. I thought he was a really smart coach. I liked the way that he talked, heard really great things about him from other players. And when we got him, I was very happy and, excited to try to get him another Super Bowl championship.
Take me through that first playoff game. You guys weren't the favorite. Mid-season, you guys are probably like, what the heck is going on? We look like old Tampa. You guys caught fire at the right time, but
we didn't think that.
Well, without the
internally,
the thing about it with COVID and the lack of practice time, you guys probably figured, man, we just a play or two away, and that defense was only going to get better.
And the offense, we started pretty slow. The defense started out better than we did for sure. And we just knew that with time, that just getting more time together, that, we'd get to where we wanted to go. And, BA harped on it all year. We got to keep fighting. We got to, stay resilient. And we learned a lot about ourselves, before that bye week and, strung off 8 straight. And that first playoff game, it was, we did everything we had to do to get the win, but it was no fans in the stands, like not one. So that kind of sucked. But, it made up for it in New Orleans and Green Bay. They had a couple of fans in New Orleans, and Green Bay did a really good job. And the Super Bowl was cool, too, to have fans out there.
Take me through you getting ready for the Super Bowl. Like, you've been through the season. Tom is there. The shiny, he's not a shiny toy anymore. Now you're going out there, Super Bowl 55. Get me what you were thinking about. What'd you eat for pregame? How nervous were you?
I wasn't nervous at all. And the tickets are slotted. So I bought a suite. I did buy a suite. I bought a suite. Cost me a little bit, but it was worth it. You know, a lot of my family members and close friends got to, watch that game. But it was a strange feeling because everybody all week was talking about the parties after and what they're doing after and making plans. And I'm like, what if we lose? Would y'all still want to do all this stuff? And they're like, we're not losing. And so I was like, all right, shit, we ain't losing. And then, I started making my own plans. And then, the day of the game, we had a morning activation, and the mood in the little lobby we were in doing our activation, we were like doing foam rolling, stretching, and everybody was just hyped. Everybody just had a confidence about them that they knew that, we were going to get the job done because we had played Kansas City earlier in the season. And, we wanted to get our rematch against those guys. And, everybody was well prepared and just very confident.
The defense was playing so well. But the story was Tom Brady going to his 10th Super Bowl.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, they've only played 55. He's been to 10 of them. How was he in the huddle? How was he on the sideline? And I know afterwards you could see that how he was explaining to you guys, it's so worth it and so worth the sacrifice. That
moment, man, it was special. Tom, man, he did the same thing, all year. Just prepped us, before the games, made sure we were all on the same page, as an offense. And he just did the same thing, but just with a little more detail and a little more time. That's all. We just had a little extra meetings for the playoff games and the Super Bowl. And he just sent us a little more film than usual for the Super Bowl. And it got us ready. I mean, we knew what to expect on most downs. And he was a little more fired up than usual, I guess, for the Super Bowl. I mean, his 10th one, the game of games. But he was normal when the whistle blew.
I met with his dad the day before, and his dad wasn't worried about the game at all. I was like, well, what are you concerned about? He's like, I'm concerned he'll never quit. This guy doesn't want, he doesn't want to quit football. So to me, that's what I was thinking about the Tom Brady. We're going to see him for a couple more years. Is that what you're thinking too?
That's what I'm hoping. I mean, he says that, if he feels like he can win, then he'll keep coming back. So hopefully he feels like he can win a few more years.
How has this offseason been different than the first offseason? Because we're still in COVID, but we're not totally out of it. But I know how important it is for Tom Brady to get with his wide receivers to be able to work on their chemistry in the offseason. And you guys weren't able to do that in year number one.
Well, I feel like we're miles ahead now. Obviously we had the second half of last season, we really started playing much better. And we took that momentum into mini camp and then now training camp and preseason. And, week one's around the corner. So, I feel like we're miles ahead of where we were last year. And I look forward to seeing what we can do this year. I mean, we're trying to, be one of the best offenses ever. And, we have the talent to do it. We just got to go out there and make it happen.
You have tremendous personnel. You guys were never healthy altogether, let alone Tom not having an off season. You guys got AB late. You guys got Fournette late. I mean, your expectations have to be through the roof to be able to say, man, if we have a whole training camp together, the team that takes the field against Dallas is a totally different team that took that first game, I think, last year in New Orleans, right?
And I mean, and everybody's healthy now, too. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's on the same page. Tom has more than, he had a couple months into the offense before we played the Saints last year. So now, he knows the playbook very well. We all know what he expects from us. And, our O-line is very underrated as well. They're going to be even better than they were last year. So
give me a couple players on your roster. You're one of the longest tenured players there in Tampa. And when you go through training camp, you go through the preseason, there's a couple guys that typically kind of pop off the film. And they might be younger players. They might be veteran players just in the system. I talked to JPP this summer. He's so excited. He thinks that defense is going to be top 3 in the league, if not the
He's confident, and he's a beast, and he's one of our leaders.
So give me a couple of the guys that you have seen through training camp and through offseason that you really think going to pop this year.
Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of guys are already pretty solidified. You mean like guys that haven't really like burst on the scene yet?
Either one. Guys that or guys that haven't been healthy.
That's a lot. I feel like Antonio Brown is going to shock some people this year because people don't really mention him anymore like they used to. He was the best receiver in the league until a couple of years ago when he missed almost the whole season. He was the best receiver in my opinion, him and Julio. But he's healthy this year, and he's juiced up. Chris Godwin's going to be healthy this year. So obviously my 2 running mates at receiver are going to do their thing. Tyler Johnson is a second-year player. I look for him to make a big leap for us, make some clutch catches for us last year in the playoffs. Defensive side of the ball, I feel like our secondary is going to take that next leap. Last year, I know they showed some games where they could be dominant. This year, I look for them to be more consistent and really ball out. They're like 6'1" corners, our safeties, young, hard-hitting, smart. I look for our DBs and those 2 receivers that I mentioned, or 3 receivers that I mentioned to really do something this year.
Mike, I greatly appreciate the time that you've taken with us. I really appreciate what you're doing off the field because I feel as an NFL legacy player that we have a legacy, and that's to be charitable. And you have shown that. How important is it? Because I communicated with you last year when you were nominated for the Walter Payton, and I won the first Walter Payton Award winner. What would that mean to you as a human being to be able to win that award one day?
I mean, just to be nominated is a tremendous honor, obviously. I mean, I never even thought about any of this. I've always, when I was young, I wanted to grow up and, make a lot of money playing a sport I love. And then with the money I make, just take care of my family and then people in need. That's all I really wanted to do when I was young. And just to be nominated, that's just a bonus to be, Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. That's just a bonus. But if I ever win it, obviously it's going to be one of the best honors I've ever received. And, I love what the Walter Payton family is doing, Walter Payton's family is doing. And, I hope they keep that legacy going. And I'm just honored to be, in the same like sentence as, all these other guys that are doing great things for their communities and, their hometowns and things like that.
You have the individual acknowledgments. You have the Pro Bowls. You have the Super Bowl. What's a real goal for Mike Evans as you enter year number 8 on a stack? Because when you start getting this point in your career, you have to compromise sometime your numbers. I might not be able to get 10 touchdowns. I might not be able to get 1,400 because we have to all these mouths to feed. What are real goals for you at this point in your career?
I don't think about like the numbers as far as like what I'm going to have at the end of the season because every year is different. I just want to make the most plays possible. I want to be better than I was last year. I want a higher catch percentage. I want to run better after the catch. I always try to get better at yak, always, because that's 1-2. Especially since I'm very healthy this year. I hope I can, have my best season with yak and just some more big plays. I want some more big plays this year and just try to make the most of my opportunities. I don't know a set number. Well, obviously, I'd like to continue the streak of 1,000-yard seasons to start a career and get into the playoffs and then try to get back to the dance.
He's Mike Evans, football fans. Mike, thanks for joining us. I hope people out there, I hope they realize that you're more than a football player. Thank you for sharing your life experiences because that's not always easy. Even though sometimes it does roll off our tongue, it's not always easy to think about those memories and keep making a mark. They're in Tampa and they're in G-Town.
Yes, sir.
Because I know they're very, very proud of you. And as a former wide receiver that's played the game, I greatly appreciate how you go about it and how you've developed into not only the man on the field, but who you are off the field and take advantage of the NFL stage. It's Mike Evans, 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons, NFL record, broke my man Straight Cash homie Randy Moss's record.
That's my guy, though.
Super Bowl champion, newly minted there in Tampa Bay, Super Bowl 55 with Tom Terrific. Mike, pulling for you this season. Have a record-breaking season. Thanks for joining us on Wide Receiver 1.
Cris, you're a legend. Thank you, man. I
Thank you, bro.
appreciate you.
Let's stay in contact with each other. Special thanks to Mike Evans, and thanks for listening to Wide Receiver 1, a Blue Wire podcast presented by WinBet. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. I'm Cris Carter. Catch you next week.